Casual Commander, like baseball, is full of unwritten rules. There are many cards that are legal, but will cause friction at most local game stores. Because of this, many players often worry about if their deck is fun or will cause issues. So here I have a guide on how to make sure your deck does not break any unwritten rules and how to reduce salt in your playgroup. But before I get into that, you know the drill. Subscribe if you like my content. You might be thinking that unwritten rules are subjective, so how could you make a definitive guide for that? I promise by the end it'll be clear. The first rule is respect. And I don't mean just being kind to other players, although 100% you should do that. I'm talking about respecting others' time. I talked about this in my group hug and chaos deck videos, but you should have a plan to win the game. If you're casting Apocalypse to just make the game longer, it's generally considered rude. And if you're playing a game with a winner, you should be trying to win. It feels bad when someone gets way ahead with a fast mana Soul Ring opening, and then the group hug player just gives them extra gas. It makes taking the archenemy down even harder. There are also some cards that simply take a long time to resolve. Thieves Auction and Scrambleverse are some of the best examples of this. I've literally never seen these cards resolve. Last time I saw someone cast Thieves Auction, it was copied with a fork and everybody just said, "Wow, would you look at the time?" and went home. These cards can be comboed with stuff like Brand to get value, but I would avoid them since they take a lot of time. Okay, but those are corner cases, right? Most people are not casting Scrambleverse or playing decks with a win condition. So what do people get salty about? Well, let's scroll through EDH Rec's top salt page and see what the saltiest cards are. So right at the top, we have Winter Orb and Stasis that stop people from untapping lands. And then Thassa's Oracle, which is a bit odd, since without the Forbidden Tutors, it's not a very good card. And I've played a lot of Casual Commander, and outside of CDH, I have never seen an Oracle Consultation combo. Let me know in the comments below if you see these in your random casual games, but when somebody's at the table and they're like, "Oh, I have an upgraded precon," nobody's playing Oracle Consult combo. Honestly, most of the cards that cause salt are things that stop you from untapping lands or destroying lands, so let's just skip past those, since most people don't play them anyway. Alright, we got like Vortclex and Turgid and Expropriate. So mana restricting and theft effects. And then Dockside. Now this card is very powerful and I'm not a huge fan of it, but salty, it just makes a ton of mana. And then we have stuff like Psychrift, Dranith Magistrate. I mean, these are pretty normal cards. And if you go further past that, you have like Mindslaver, Mystic Study, Fierce Guardianship, Smothering Tithe, just generally powerful, expensive cards. And then further we have so many random things like Darksteel Monolith. What a strange thing to be upset about. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. I mean, man, this card is so bad. I've seen it played in Commander many times and I have never seen a player actually cast Sheoldred and win a game or even come close. Mana Crypt and Force of Will are also up here as some of the saltier cards, which is also really odd. Force of Will in Casual Commander is not that great. It's straight up card disadvantage. It's very good in competitive Commander, don't get me wrong, but in Casual I would usually rather have a just cheaper counterspell so I don't lose cards. We also see cards like Fierce Guardianship and Mana Drain having a high salt score, along with big creatures like Toxrill and both Elish Norns actually, and both Jin-Gitaxises. So if we take all this information in, put it together, you need to build a deck with no land destruction, no counterspells, no creature hate, no expensive cards, no powerful cards, no combos. So if you fill your deck with basic lands, some draft chaff, and a commander that does nothing, I think you're in the clear. Obviously, I'm joking here. Most of these cards boil down to stopping your opponent from winning in some capacity, or just being kind of expensive or iconic maybe. It seems that anything you do to your opponent causes salt. And because of that, it really can't be accounted for because you're going to do stuff to try and win the game for the most part. You're always going to be able to find someone who's upset at some card. It's absolutely impossible to adjust your deck in a way that no one will ever get upset. So what's the point of this video? Well, there is something you can do to minimize the salt you get from your opponent's cards. You can make it so they don't break any unwritten rules. And the secret is playing more removal. Let's ignore the land destruction instants and sorceries for a moment. Most people don't play these. I don't know how many boils and tsunamis you see floating around. But let's look at cards like Elish Norn and Toxrill. If you see those cards and you're like, these make me salty, we need to ban them in my playgroup, then this video is for you. So many of these cards on the top salt list are just random creatures, which are just fine cards. If your deck folds to Elish Norn, you need to fix your deck, or just remove it. If a Drannith Magistrate means your deck does not function in any capacity, you cannot do anything, then you need to make a deck that can function without the commander. Heavy reliance on your commander is going to be a problem in the future anyway, Drannith or not. Instants and sorceries that destroy lands usually require specific answers, but outside of those, normal gameplay, combos, creatures, counterspells, regular parts of the game shouldn't cause any salt, and everything is beatable. If you don't want to get hit by counterspells, play Vexing Shusher. If you don't want to get hit by combos, play Crozan Grip. Don't want to deal with some creature on the board? Remove it with anything. Do you play removal and it's still not working? You probably don't run enough card draw. Like 80% of the casual decks that I see run so little card draw and so little removal that 2 powerful creatures is more than enough to just beat their entire deck. And if you're struggling to fit card draw and removal slots in your deck, watch my video on getting extra slots in your commander deck. Look, end of the day, you can't stop other people from getting mad at you for breaking an unwritten rule. But instead of getting mad at other people for playing cards that they like, you should focus on what you can do as an individual. You are at least partially responsible for your own fun. There's a really good chance that your deck is not perfectly optimized and that you don't always play perfectly. I mean, everybody makes misplays, right? One unwritten rule that I have is that I never tell my opponents to change their deck. I don't tell them to ban extra cards, swap decks, anything like that. Now, if they're playing a deck that seems stronger than everyone else's at the table, I will use politics to get everyone on my side to 3v1 them, and they'll have to contend with that since they're playing a stronger deck. But I don't want to tell someone that the deck that they spent time, money, and effort building is unfun and that they need to get rid of it. Because fun is subjective, and they're playing the deck because they like it, presumably. And we're all trying to have fun here. That's the point of Casual Commander. I promise you, if you tune your deck a little bit more, or even just pay attention to what you're using removal on. Did you use artifact removal on something random or something very relevant? Taking the time to improve your gameplay or your deck will lead to more fun games in the future. I promise you, you don't need to max out the power level or fine-tune your deck to some point where it's CDH, but some improvements could help. Maybe your deck is a bit underpowered. But as always, if you think I'm crazy and that my whole rant is wrong, let me know in the comments below. I read every comment, so if you type it, I'll see it. Thank you so very much for watching. Subscribe for more.